Welcome, degenerates, to Place Your Bets. I'm Tyler James. He's the one and only Eric Hansen. We cover Notre Dame football recruiting and more for InsideNDSports.com on the Rivals Network. And we love to make Notre Dame football prop bets for bragging rights. We didn't have a lot of dissenting opinions last week, Eric, so the results of our Navy prop bets were pretty tight. We even had our first push of the season, so I went ahead and gave us all credit as if we got it right on the Notre Dame touchdowns Navy punt prop bet. There was 5 each, so I figured the fairest way was to give us credit as if we were right. Do you think that is fair?
Heck yeah.
All right. And the only difference that went against you was picking Audric Estime as the running back with the most carries instead of Logan Diggs. The inside lounge and myself both had Diggs, and then none of us actually ended up guessing any of the 3 players who led the team with 8 tackles. You and the Insider Lounge were doomed from the start because J.D. Bertrand didn't end up playing, and my pick of Jason Adalola was decent. He ended up with 6 tackles, but not enough to get the team lead. And because of the results of last week, the Insider Lounge has jumped back in front of our season standings. And I think that looks like a bunch of mutual respect to me. What do you think, Eric?
That's true. And they did mention the mutual respect at some point. It might have taken them a while, but yeah, then they get into it. I think it was probably when the score was lopsided, and then they came back, and then it was about the game.
Then it was about mutual competition.
That's right. But you know what? And the guy with the most carries, I thought he was more effective in that game. There's some games where Diggs is more effective.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that as well. All right, well, let's make some prop bets for Notre Dame's home finale against Boston College. The first one I have for us, Eric, is over under 1.5 touchdown passes for Drew Pyne.
Yeah, I went over on this. This seemed like free money, and I tried to overthink it a little bit. But I mean, Boston College is about equal run versus the pass in terms of their proficiency against it, and they're not very good at either. They're not awful. The one thing about their pass defense is they have a ton of pass breakups for a team that's rated that low in passing efficiency. But and so you wonder if some of those are at the line of scrimmage that are being tipped. But I'll still say Pyne gets it done and gets over 1.5 touchdowns.
It sounds like I should have put the line at 2.5. Then I'm going to take the under. I just think it's going to be a run heavy game, especially when they get to the red zone. I don't necessarily see Notre Dame having a ton of success in the cold throwing the football. So that's why I went under. Maybe I'm being a little bit too pessimistic with only thinking he will get 1 touchdown pass or less. But I'm going to take the under here and maybe a little bit of an upset.
Well, I think Boston College too is going to do a little of what Navy did and kind of push Pyne to have to pass a little bit more, especially in close quarters. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
All right. Next one. Speaking of the passing game, more catches, Braden Lenzy or Lorenzo Styles?
Well, I think just about every week until this week, I would have said Styles, even though he's had some trouble with the dropsies and just hasn't had the sophomore season we thought he would. But I'm going to go with Braden Lenzy based on it's senior day. He's probably going to get every opportunity. He played well last week. He's going to get more snaps than Styles. So chances are he'll be able to take a ball off of a defensive back's back and grab it and pull it around for a catch.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna go with Lenzy as well. He's sort of the hot hand for Notre Dame, even though that hot hand didn't extend to the second half of the Navy game. But he was playing well. I think he's been playing fairly well for much of the season. Just hasn't been given a lot of opportunities.
And he's gotten missed a couple times too.
Yes,
wide open.
Yes, definitely, and has sort of handled it all with a pretty good perspective, and hasn't really let it impact his play in any way. He hasn't really sort of just maybe given less effort because he's not getting a lot of production. He's still out there running hard. I even appreciate how well he's done sort of on the punt team as a gunner, running down and making sure the opposing team's punt returns can't get much traction. So potentially a fitting senior day for Braden Lenzy, who's been through quite a bit and had his share of disappointments throughout his career, but I think is finishing strong here. Next one I have for us, Eric, is who will win the turnover battle?
Well, Notre Dame's been near the bottom of the FBS in turnover margin for most of the season. And a lot of that is because earlier in the season, they didn't generate turnovers with their defense. They've gotten better with that. They are trending upward. Boston College has actually been much worse with this. Theirs is a combination of not forcing a lot and turning the ball over with their offense. And again, given the cold weather, they're used to it, so it's not an equalizer by any means. But I just think I'm expecting Emmett Moorhead to, if not play the entirety of the game, play most of it for Boston College, turning the ball over as well as he's played the last couple of weeks. So I'm going with Notre Dame winning the turnover battle.
All right, I will agree with you there. I don't think either team is necessarily particularly good at forcing turnovers, and Notre Dame has done a pretty good job of protecting the football. As long as a Drew Pyne pass doesn't get deflected, that's been the most frequent case of turnovers. I think the majority of his interceptions, I think 3 of the 5, have been a result of passes being batted into the air. But I think Notre Dame will force maybe 1 or 2, and the Irish will keep it clean on their offensive end. All right, next one I have is over under 61.5 rushing yards for Boston College.
Well, they are the worst rushing team in the country. And I think, we look at matchups sometimes, and sometimes teams that aren't as good match up better with Notre Dame. Boston College does not. I know we kind of got burnt on Stanford with this a little bit. They ran the ball a little bit better than we thought they would. But, sacks gets added into those rushing yards.
Right.
And the last 3 weeks, Boston College has given up 5 sacks in each of those games against teams that aren't as good at sacking the quarterback as Notre Dame is. So I'm going under the 61.5 yards.
Yeah, I will as well. It seems like a shockingly low total, but that is essentially what Boston College has been averaging throughout the season. They are the worst rushing offense in the country, and it's not even close. I think they're maybe like 17 yards behind the.
Yeah, and if they hadn't played Maine, I mean, it could be historically bad.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty brutal, and I think I mentioned some earlier in the week that if you doubled their total, they'd still be outside the top 100 rushing offenses in the country. That's how bad it is. So the sacks have a big part to do with that, when taking some of those rushing yards away. And so I do think Notre Dame will be able to get a number of sacks this weekend and keep Boston College's rushing total pretty low. All right, next one, over under 6.5 catches for Boston College wide receiver Zay Flowers.
He's really good. With Brandon Joseph not likely playing, he was listed as downgraded to doubtful on Thursday by Marcus Freeman during his Zoom. Then you think, who's the over-the-top help? Because Zay Flowers can run, I think, by any of Notre Dame's cornerbacks and pretty much everybody's. He's had 10 catches in a couple of games. I think he had 2 against UConn. So he's been pretty consistent. He's got to be over. I mean, Notre Dame's going to try to limit him as much as they can, but who are you scared of with Xavier Watts? Xavier Watts is turning into a really good safety, but I don't know that that's his strength yet, is that over-the-top kind of help. So Zay Flowers, I could see him getting 10 catches.
Yeah, I think that's easy to imagine. It's just like, who are they else are they going to give the ball to if they're not getting the ball to Zay Flowers? What are they doing?
Yeah.
So, but I do think Notre Dame is going to make a concerted effort to try to have someone else beat them. They held Josh Downs, another prolific receiver, to 5 catches. So I'm going to go the other way and go with the under here and say they're going to maybe sell
so
out.
Who do you think they'll put on him? Bracey?
Yeah, I think I would follow him with Bracey and have a safety help over the top, and do as much as you can to sort of limit his opportunities, because I think that's the one player that you feel like can beat you. And I don't know that you feel that way about really anyone else on Boston College's offense right now.
Okay.
All right, last prop bet. Which senior will receive the loudest applause during senior day recognition?
Loudest applause. So my finalists for it, I try to narrow down the field. Usually there's somebody pretty obvious.
Right, there's not an
And
obvious candidate.
there's not an obvious, and sometimes it's the parents that generate the applause, like Sheldon Day's mom. Um, so I narrowed it down to Avery Davis, Jarrett Patterson, Braden Lenzy, Isaiah Foskey, and the Adamalola twins. They may get the loudest applause because there'll be two of them coming back to back. But I'm gonna narrow it down to Avery or Patterson. And I mean, if people know the full extent of Jarrett Patterson's story, he's got to be the guy that you cheer the loudest for. Playing with so much pain and playing the whole season injured, where a lot of guys would have just said, I'm going to get ready for the NFL. So Jarrett Patterson is my guy. And if he doesn't win that, I'll cheer from the press box to make it seem like it's the loud.
You start shaking the table next to me, so it's like it's really it's really loud in there. I'm gonna go with your other finalist, Avery Davis. I just think he's another guy with a very compelling story.
Yeah.
Terrible luck that he wasn't able to play this year because of the knee injury, and Notre Dame fans haven't really had an opportunity to cheer for him this season. So I think they'll take advantage of that. I would imagine he's going to have a chance to run out there. I don't think he's on crutches or anything like that anymore. So I think this will be potentially a pretty cool moment for him. But yeah, like you said, there's not really an obvious option. Isaiah Foskey has probably made the most plays of anyone that is on that list and is the biggest probably name. But I do think that this would be an opportunity to show Avery Davis some love, and the Notre Dame fans will deliver with that. All right. Now, what is your final score prediction for Notre Dame Boston College?
So, again, I think this is a really good matchup for Notre Dame, but I also thought that for the Stanford. So I don't want to get ahead of myself too much here. And then these senior day things get a little bit sappy sometimes, and the score's a little bit closer. But I'm going to go 38-17 Notre Dame in this one. I think it's going to be close for half, and then Notre Dame is going to pull away in the second half for their 19th consecutive November victory.
Yeah, I'm going with the who knows what's going to happen in a Notre Dame game this season outcome. I think I can see it being an ugly game, and there being some concern at some point going into the second half, and Notre Dame's offense maybe not punching in some red zone opportunities with touchdowns. So I'm going to predict Notre Dame 27, Boston College 14. Probably lower scoring than you would imagine for Notre Dame's offense against Boston College's defense. But we'll have to settle for some field goals to keep the score down. So that's what I'm going with. I don't feel terribly confident in that, but it's really hard to feel very confident with the outcomes of these games for Notre Dame this season. At least last week I was in the right vicinity with Notre Dame scoring output, but was way off in what would happen for Navy's offense. So I'm not going into this final home game with a lot of confidence. Well, all right, that's all we have for this week's Place Your Bets. If you don't already, subscribe to our Inside ND Sports YouTube channel, like this video, and comment some of your predictions below. We will be back on Monday for our Monday Night Live video, and we will be discussing the Boston College game and then looking forward to the USC game. So even if you don't join us live on Monday, you can watch it during the week, maybe during your Thanksgiving travels, and we hope you have a good weekend.